headline this Climate Solutions Prize Festival happening here in Montreal. And I was sort of aware of this organization. I actually think I maybe interrupted an event of theirs in the past, and that's why I was on their email list. And basically, it was set up by the Jewish National Fund of Montreal with some connection to the Israeli government. The JNF is, of course, a explicitly racist organization, and we basically wrote about it. And then Justice Advocates did a email petition campaign, and David Suzuki announced that he was not going to participate in this forum set up by the Jewish National Fund of Canada, which is a small victory. I think it's a sign that, the tide has turned in left circles. As I pointed out in the second article you mentioned, if you go back a decade ago, all kinds of NDP politicians, Elizabeth May, the head of the Green Party, they were like speaking at Jewish National Fund galas and praising the organization. And now you have a situation where Suzuki doesn't want to participate in a forum set up by the JNF. It's not actually a JNF forum. It's set up by the JNF. And that, if you go back 30, 40, maybe even 50 years, that's due to the campaigning that a whole bunch of grassroots activists have been doing to raise awareness of the JNF, its charitable status. In 2024, it lost its charitable status in part because of all that campaigning, because it was supporting the Israeli military, West Bank colonies, funding its parent organization in Israel, which is a land thieving racist organization. And so, Suzuki pulling out is a small win. There's another speaker that has now, we've been told, is not going to participate. And we just begun another email campaign to all the other speakers at this forum to also withdraw. But it also raises another question that I didn't know much about until seeing that Suzuki was speaking, which is that the David Suzuki Foundation has Stephen Bronfman, been on his board for 30 years. Stephen Bronfman is the peon of the most anti-Palestinian family in Canadian history. The Bronfman family has a 100-year-long history of promoting Jewish supremacist colonialism. They helped get guns to the Haganah in 1948 during ethnic cleansing. They've been fundraisers after the 1967 war. Stephen Bronfman himself, he's the lead financier for Justin Trudeau's Liberals, and he stated explicitly he was fundraising for Trudeau partly because Trudeau was going to be equally pro-Israel as Stephen Harper. So it's pretty dubious that the Suzuki Foundation would have someone like Stephen Bronfman on their board, and we're going to start raising awareness of that question. But it's a small win for Suzuki to have withdrawn from this JNF instigated forum.
Yves, listen, Yves, we've been talking with each other for quite a long time, for a few decades. We've been inviting you over onto the program, and I've rarely, Yves, have I taken exception for what you're saying, except for now. Because I don't view this in any form, shape at all as a small victory. I know that you title it like that, and I know in the grander scheme of things, yes, okay, but still, I don't think it is. I think this is a huge victory, and it is, as you were saying earlier, it's been part of a sustained effort from communities to be able to surface this kind of stuff, and for Suzuki himself to say that he was unaware or whatever. I mean, the organization itself has obviously been aware and has been working like this. It says a lot about how Canadian organizations are working and the reach of these lobbies. So no, I don't think this is small at all. In fact, this is why we do speak with you. It's because you do share these kinds of things. This is great information that you have shared, and it's just part of your legacy. We totally appreciate it. Folks who want to know can go to yvesengler.com, YVESENGLER.com, to read these articles. Thank you for doing this kind of work that you do all the time. I know time is short with us tonight. But I want to also talk to you about the other article that you wrote. Let me just open that up for a second. The one about Mark Carney and the different sort of system. I think that's really, really important statements or analysis that you have there. A lot of Canadians were really taken by Mark Carney. for whatever reasons, but he's proven to be somebody else completely in the way that he governs. And now that he has a majority, it's going to be a little bit crazy to see how this turn toward the right is getting even further. Would you like to talk to us about this article that you wrote titled Don't Look to Mark Carney for a Different Sort of System?
Yeah, well, I mean, Carney made that speech in Davos, which was supposedly defending international law, sovereignty, and supposedly sort of standing up, or middle powers standing up to the U.S. bully. In practice, Mark Carney, before the speech and within hours after the speech, was supporting efforts that undercut Venezuelan sovereignty, Haitian sovereignty, efforts that the Trump administration was leading, also Palestinian sovereignty. So it was very clear that this was not a rhetoric that was based in reality of Canadian policy. And you see that Carney has ramped up military spending. Also, it's always important to note that the Canadian military has hundreds of accords with the U.S. military, is structured to assist the U.S. military internationally. So while they talk about like elbows up, there hasn't been one military accord with the U.S. that's been paused, as far as we know, except for when the Americans made that move with the Permanent Joint Board on Defense. And Mark Carney has totally militarized quite historically so Canadian foreign policy, and he's aligned on Iran. He's aligned on obviously the kidnapping of Maduro in Venezuela, as I mentioned. He said basically nothing on the attacks against Cuba that the U.S. is following. So this rhetoric is just, it's rhetoric. It's designed to play to sort of liberal-minded Canadians. It's designed to play to sort of others, maybe some other NATO countries. And we shouldn't be fooled by it. We should push back against his ongoing imperial policies. We should not accept this very deceitful kind of framing. And so this is, Mark Carney is he's an investment banker. He was the chair of Brookfield's Asset Management, which is a $1 trillion, century-old Canadian imperial company. I mean, in the 40s and 50s and 20s and 30s in Brazil, it was called the Canadian octopus because Brookfield's predecessor had its tentacles in so much of Brazil's economy. It was, it's hired a fascist in Brazil who played a role in the coup against Goulart in the mid-60s. So this is he is of the sort of liberal banking circles of Canada that has long been tied into U.S. and British imperialism. This is not somebody who in any way is offering some sort of alternative. And in fact, what we're seeing is that he's trampling on Indigenous rights to, with C5, the Build Canada Act, further trampling on Indigenous rights to build more fossil fuel infrastructure. So really, when it comes to Mark Carney, apparently in his the Liberal Party's platform, they mention climate change 28 times. They don't mention building new pipelines once. Yet what we see is total indifference to the climate crisis and a desire to build a whole lot more fossil fuel infrastructure. So Mark Carney has, I think, played Canadians. He succeeded in framing himself as sort of anti-Trump while basically following policies that Trump is happy with, and furthering this gross inequity in this country, where you have one individual that has $150 billion, you have something like 60 families that control as much wealth as the poorest quarter of the country, and what we're doing is going to give more to those 60 families and less to those at the bottom, while reversing those what ultimately look actually fairly good, but we're very, very minimal steps away from the colonial legacy that under Justin Trudeau, we're going to basically, we're going in the opposite direction.
Yves, we're going to have to leave it there. Time is really short for this conversation. We always look forward to catching up with you as you go, and listeners can check out the writing at yvesengler.com. Thank you very much, Yves. We'll check in real soon. You have a good evening.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sorry about that. My daughter came in the room.
No sorries, Eve. I just want you to get back to your family. We'll catch up soon. No sorries. It's all good, Eve. We love you. We love you. Take care.
High on the mountain, deep in the trees, flow with the river, fly on the breeze, sunlight peeking through the rain. Take the toil and the pain. Breathe in, breathe out. Find the peace somehow.